by Rick Mast in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, and this team is changing from Ford to Pontiac for 1996. Well, we have lots for you in this 1 hour of Inside NASCAR, so let's get right to it. Here's what's coming up.
It's fun afloat as drivers, crewmen, and race fans all gather on the high seas for some off-season R&R aboard the Big Red Boat. We'll take you along. Andy Petrie's track record with Richard Childress Racing equaled 3 seasons and 2 championships. Petrie's departure this year puts longtime team members David Smith and Bobby Hutchins at the helm. The question is, can they take Dale Earnhardt to a record-breaking 8th title? And we'll take a look back at Pontiac's involvement in Winston Cup racing and talk with crew chief Kevin Hamlin about the changeover to a new body style that is still top secret.
Today's show is brought to you by Texaco Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. Take it to the star. And by coal-filtered Miller Genuine Draft, making the world a very cool place.
For those of us who make our living in the sport of auto racing, we don't get a lot of time to relax, even during the off-season. But recently, some drivers and other personalities did get to go on a cruise on the Big Red Boat. It was sponsored by TNN, benefited the Winston Cup Racing Wives Auxiliary, and our Randy Pemberton and photographer Kim Novak were invited to go along on the cruise. So you sit back and relax as they show you some of the highlights.
The first annual NASCAR cruise aboard the Big Red Boat had all the indications of being a big hit even before the ship got away from its port in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Along for this 4-night, 3-day getaway were Winston Cup stars and families, included among the drivers Kyle Petty, Todd Bodine, Steve Grissom, Ted Musgrave, Jimmy Hensley, Ernie Irvin, Hut Strickland, and Lake Speed. Also along for the party, Ray Evernham and his Rainbow Warriors. TNN's Ralph Shaheen served as the cruise host, and TNN's president David Hall made his way to the Bon Voyage celebration to kick things off for what was sure to be a fun time for race fans and a successful fundraiser for the Winston Cup Racing Wives Auxiliary.
I think it's a great opportunity for all the factions of racing to come together to support a very important charity. And we're glad we can be a part of it and help support it. And hopefully this is a stepping stone to something that'll be really big and important to the charity as far as fundraising. And it's good for the fans. They get to spend time with their heroes. And it's good for the teams. They get to spend time with their families, which is something that's pretty precious during the season.
It didn't take long before race fans were rubbing elbows with their favorites, and we were on our way to the Bahamas. After a relaxing first evening aboard the Oceanic, the cruise shifted into high gear the next morning with kids and Looney Tunes characters. The NASCAR family cruise had everyone covered, young and old, and the entertainment couldn't have been better. I mean, how often do your kids get a chance to have a free concert from none other than Kyle Petty?
Rub-a-dub-dub, scrub, scrub, scrub until your skin turns red. Mama's gonna check behind your ears and necks and rub-a-dub like you should. Rub-a-dub-dub and scrub, scrub, scrub. Rub-a-dub and scrub real good. Okay, step forward, Amy. You go up there. Oh, wait a minute. Just stand there. Come here. Stand. Just stand. Now, Amy, she's been playing in her mama's makeup kit.
With calm seas and sunny skies en route to Nassau, race fans found the drivers surrounding the lounge deck, signing autographs, taking snapshots, and just shooting the breeze. For race fans, it couldn't have gotten any better than this. A collector's edition poster was a popular item to get autographed. Even the artist, Bear Graves, was on board.
Yes, I believe what it is the proceeds, part of this is going toward the Racing Wives Auxiliary. And they're going to take the artist proof, which is one, and they're going to auction that. So that ought to be good. And that's also signed by everybody.
Oh, wow, that's great.
It's got all the drivers that were on board with us, and the Rainbow Warriors is all on it, and we're on it.
The evenings on the ship started out quiet, a time to tempt your palate with pleasure. From seafood to pasta, early and late seatings made it convenient, especially for the kids that couldn't be out too late. The entertainment on the boat never stopped. Here, Todd and Lynn Bodine try their hand with the magic act.
you get like that often? All the time.
Todd evidently enjoyed being on stage so much that, well, you guessed it, karaoke.
Wild thing, you make my heart sing. You make everything moving. Wild thing.
Yes, the karaoke room was the late-night rage aboard the Big Red Boat. For the fans, it was Hut and Pam Strickland who stole their hearts.
When will we share, precious woman? Hot, you're hot, hot, hot.
But it was the 1995 Winston Cup Championship crew chief, Ray Evernham, that stole the show. Included in Ray's repertoire were classic selections such as This Magic Moment. Also, The Lion Sleeps Tonight, a duet with Hut Strickland. And if you order now, you can get Ray and his Rainbow Warriors singing their all-time favorite hit, Great Balls of Fire.
Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. It's the baby.
We'll have more on the cruise a little later on in this program, and after this break, we'll talk to a couple of guys who have taken on some huge responsibilities at Richard Childress Racing, David Smith and Bobby Hutchins. That and the mailbox and more coming up.
What greater dream could you ask for to get a top job at a premier team with the premier driver and come out just be tremendously successful? It'd be a dream come true.
Welcome back to Inside NASCAR. Even though there's no racing going on this time of year, the news goes on year-round. So let's catch you up to date on what's been going on.
This segment of Inside NASCAR is brought to you by Texaco Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. Take it to the star.
It was announced this week that along with switching from Ford to Pontiacs this season, Richard Jackson Racing has acquired Hooters Restaurants as a sponsor. Hooters will replace Skoal starting at Daytona in February. Seven-time Winston Cup champion Dale Earnhardt, along with several crew members of Richard Childress Racing, will head for Japan on Wednesday. Dale is scheduled to test a Goodwrench Chevrolet on the 1.4-mile Suzuka Circuitland road course. That is in preparation for a NASCAR exhibition race on November 24th. General Motors testing got underway at Daytona last Wednesday, and here are the top 10 first-day speeds from January 3rd. In other news, Bob Baer, owner of the New Hampshire International Speedway, has purchased the remaining 50% of the North Wilkesboro Speedway. The racetrack, rumored to be on the list for losing its Winston Cup dates in the near future, is now co-owned by Baer and Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, which holds Charlotte, Atlanta, and Texas Motor Speedway, which is now under construction. The size of the starting lineup for races at the Richmond International Raceway will increase in 1996. The three-quarter-mile facility has had to send several drivers and teams home over the past few years due to the allowable starters. That will increase by 2+ provisionals for its Winston Cup, Sears Craftsman Super Truck races, and Busch Series events this year. One other news note, January 20th is the date for this year's Winston Cup preview, held at the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Drivers, cars, and an auction is scheduled. A portion of the $10 admission fee will benefit the Brenner's Children's Hospital, Air Care, and the Winston Cup Racing Wives Auxiliary.
We're very proud of our new name inside NASCAR and the fact that we will be on for 1 hour. But to do that, we have to bring on new people. And we're very proud to introduce Stephanie Boyd, who is the new producer of Inside NASCAR. Now, Stephanie not only will produce the show, she will be an on-air talent, bringing you many stories throughout the year. So we decided to put her to work real quick as she brings us this story on a couple of guys who have taken on major responsibilities with a championship team, the Richard Childress Racing Team.
When Andy Petrie announced that he was leaving Richard Childress Racing at the end of 1995, the question was, who would replace him? Turns out 2 guys have been tapped to head things up. Veteran chassis specialist and jackman David Smith becomes the crew chief, while team engineer and shop foreman Bobby Hutchins moves to general manager.
Well, I think it was one of those situations where David and I both were experienced in certain areas, but neither one of us had both of those, type of areas, and we kind of complement each other in that relationship, and also hopefully tie some things together now that I'm going on the road a little bit with the shop that maybe before got kind of left out in the gray area somewhere outside. Maybe we can kind of close up some of those loose ends and make things a little more functional.
Smith has been with RCR since 1979. He's been through 6 championships with Dale Earnhardt behind the wheel and says that's prepared him for the job at hand.
I think it really does, because I understand this team and how it works. I understand Dale Earnhardt and what he is. My expertise has been basically with the chassis, working on helping with the setups to the crew chiefs that have been here. And preparation of the cars has been one of my big jobs, And so I understand what the cars need. I understand, what Dale needs as a driver, I believe. And just the way this team operates, I've been a real big part of, basically, since day one as far as Dale being here. And I think that's been a real benefit and plus to me.
Smith has some pretty big shoes to fill as crew chief. The Earnhardt-Childress dynasty hit full stride with Kirk Shelmerdine at the helm, but after a disastrous 1992 season, Shelmerdine bowed out, and even though Smith wanted the job then, Petrie got it and led the team on to Earnhardt's 6th and 7th titles. Smith admits it was the right choice at that time, but with Petrie's recent departure, he wasn't about to let another one get away.
Yeah, I wanted it real bad. And I felt I had something to offer this team. To be the crew chief. And yet I knew there was other people out there that have a name, that have been successful, that they were talking to and that they approached. And I told Richard, I said, if you can bring somebody in here to make this team stronger, by all means, I'm all for it. But you're going to have to show me they can be better for this team than what we can offer from within this team. And I think that's what it boiled down to, is the people in this shop and in this whole organization supported me, and they told Rich, said, we believe this guy can handle it between, what you've already got here and what he knows and what he's been through. And that just gave me a tremendous amount of confidence, knowing that I had their support.
But it was the team owner, Richard Childress, who had the ultimate say-so, and by promoting Smith and Hutchins together, he says he's found the right formula.
Yeah, if we would have went outside and brought someone else in, I think it could have hurt the team or team spirit or like that. Right now, I don't think the morale's ever been better around here, and everybody's pumped up about the 96 season. We're going to stumble a little, and everybody's going to say, hey, you should have done this or you should have done that. We also stumbled a couple of times in 93, 94. You're going to have those days, and so what do? You go to the next race and do your best.
Of course, what's expected of this team is much higher than most. After all, their statistics put them in the elite ranks of the sport. That means the pressure is on, and so is the spotlight. But the strategy here is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I think in '92 when Andy came, We'd gone through a real bad season, and we probably needed a dose of change per se. And he brought a lot of ideas and things to the team that we hadn't had before. And you know, we were kind of starting out in '93 with more or less a little more of a clean sheet of paper. This year, you know, we finished second in points, which was a big disappointment, but we had a great year. And we're not really trying to fix anything, maybe just polish on it a little better to make it more competitive and hopefully win the championship in '96. So from that perspective, I think it'll be a lot easier transition, not only in for the guys, but also for maybe the fans and everybody else. It'll kind of seem kind of like the same team other than Andy's departure.
Despite its success, there are still two things this team would like to do: win the Daytona 500 and take Earnhardt to his 8th championship. Neither is out of reach for a team of this caliber, and what better way for a rookie crew chief to prove himself?
That'll be terrific. I mean, what greater dream could you ask for to get a top job at a premier team with the premier driver and come out just be tremendously successful? It'd be a dream come true. But I'm a dreamer, and again, I'm an optimist, and if it happened that way, I would not be shocked. I would say, thank the Lord, that's the way we planned it.
There's a lot of critics as to what we're trying to do and thinking it won't work. We'd like to win the Daytona 500 right out of the box and hopefully put those people to rest and we can go on about our jobs.
Whether they win Daytona or once again fall short, one thing is for sure: the racing world will be watching the new leaders of car number 3, and, high profile or not, Hutchins and Smith are ready to take them on.
I don't think there's any doubt but what David Smith and Bobby Hutchins will do a good job there at Richard Childress Racing, and look for that team to be strong contenders for the NASCAR Winston Cup Championship in 1996. I don't think we're going to have any problem with Stephanie either. She's already got her feet wet doing a fine job. Still to come, we'll take a look at the Pontiacs, where they've been and where they're going. That in the mailbox and more coming up. The Inside NASCAR mailbox is brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft. Our question is from Rob Fox from Blackwood, New Jersey. During practice sessions, drivers will turn off the car's engines on their last lap and coast into the pits. What is the purpose of this?
Rob, thanks for your question. I'm Phil Parsons, driver of the Channel Lock Tool Chevrolet. What that does is it lets the engine builders or the people that work for the spark plug companies, gives them a chance to read the spark plugs. We also call that a clean cut, which means you don't have any residual fuel left in the combustion chamber, which gets on the spark plugs. They can look at it. They can see how the engine's performing at its maximum level, at maximum RPMs. They'll look at a multitude of things. They can tell you if you had too much ignition, not enough ignition, too much water temperature, not enough water temperature. It's amazing the things that engine builders can tell you by looking at those spark plugs. But everything we do with an engine, we go by that spark plug reading. Again, thanks for writing in.
If you have any race questions, write to us at Inside NASCAR, Post Office Box 240417, Charlotte, North Carolina 28224. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Genuine Draft Jacket.
This year on Inside NASCAR, we will bring you NASCAR biographies, a look at some of the behind-the-scenes people that normally you might not get to see that much of. And our subject this week is Todd Bodine's wife, Lynn, the new president of the Winston Cup Racing Wives Auxiliary.
When Lynn Bodine jumped on the Big Red Boat in December, not only was it the first fundraiser of its type for the Winston Cup Racing Wives Auxiliary, it was also Bodine's first official project as the club's new president.
Good boy.
When she's not cruising, though, Lynn can often be found at home, enjoying the 60 acres from 1984 at Thompson International Speedway in Connecticut. But she says it wasn't exactly love at first sight.
Yeah, my dad used to help Richie Evans, who of course was a modified god up north, and his main competition was Jeff Bodine, and so I was pretty much an anti-Bodine person. And I didn't realize there was another brother besides Brett, and when I met Todd, I guess he just figured I wouldn't hold it against him that he was a Bodine. So. But it was interesting. It wasn't anything that either of us were looking for, but I guess that's when things happen most, when you're not expecting it.
something she can expect a lot of is work, leading the fundraising efforts of the Wives Auxiliary. It may mean some time away from home and her horses, but Lynn's already dedicated and has her mission down packed.
You know, we're going to learn from the events we have, and we want to have 4 or 5 big events a year, and I think we're going to close 1995 out with the most money they've ever had in the trust fund. We've been fortunate we haven't had to pay, you know, any amounts out like we've had to in recent years when Davey and Alan were killed. You know, that hit us hard as it did the racing community. But, you know, we want to get our fund up there so we can really make a difference in people's lives.
If anyone's up to that task, it's certainly Lynn Bodine. She's one of the most popular and respected women in the NASCAR fraternity who has a drive and spirit that always shines through.
Well, thanks, Lynn. She certainly has a big job to do, president of the Winston Cup Racing Wives Auxiliary, an organization that does a lot of good things in the sport of auto racing. Still to come, we'll have the story on the Pontiacs and also part 2 of our story on the Big Red Boat.
That Pontiac that I drove back in 92 and 93 was just one whale of a car. It was a great car. I guess I won 10 races in 93 with it, and then we signed the deal with Ford Motor Company because of just different reasons. But it was when I left, all I can tell you is I won 10 races, one hell of a car.
Oh, welcome back to Inside NASCAR. Yeah, there's a 1996 Pontiac in there, but we can't take our cameras in there just yet. Hopefully before too long, you will be able to see it right here on Inside NASCAR. You know, Pontiac has had a lot of ups and downs over the years. They've had some very good years in motorsports, and they're very excited about 1996 with a new car. We're also excited to introduce another new member of our team, Karen Pappas, who will be with us, bringing us stories during the year. And right now, she takes a look at the history of Pontiac in racing.
You know, this is big. This is a big boost for Sabco Racing, for our sponsors Peak and Uniden and Pontiac, and those guys who have put so much into it over the last year and got absolutely nothing back in return except a bunch of tore-up race cars.
I'm glad to win this race here for Pontiac and for Miller and just everybody.
As long as Pontiac's got a Pontiac, we'll probably have one.
They rumbled on the beaches of Daytona, and they raced at the Rock. For 25 years, they've served as the official pace car for NASCAR. Bonneville, Firebird, Le Mans, Grand Am, Grand Prix, Trans Am, they all come under the heading of Pontiac. Just think back to the number of prominent names in stock car racing that have driven a Pontiac. Earnhardt, Allison, Yarborough, Pearson, and Petty have all sat behind the wheel of a Pontiac at some point in their careers. Why, even Junior Johnson won no less than 8 races driving his Pontiac during the early 60s. Ah, yes, those were the glory days. In fact, from 1957 to 63, Pontiac won 69 races, but then it stopped. For 18 years, there was a lull.
Basically, they withdrew. It was partially an extension in the mid-80s, got the grandstand at Le Mans. The manufacturers didn't want to be associated with a dangerous sport. But as the sport progressed and safety requirements were enhanced, they started slipping in the back door because they found that adage was true that you win on Sunday and sell on Monday.
1981 was a pinnacle year for Pontiac and all of the manufacturers in Detroit. Starting with the 1981 Daytona 500, all teams were required to use a smaller 110-inch wheelbase. Pontiac would showcase its trendy, smaller Grand Prix and Le Mans. It was Bobby Allison and the Allison Rainier team who tried the Le Mans first. Their test results from Talladega showed top speeds of 197 to 199 miles per hour. This left the other manufacturers shaking in their boots.
It's a limited edition. You can get it in 2-door, but generally it was a 4-door car, but it has better aerodynamic lines. The crew found that. That was the 28 team, and that's the team, Win Racing, started by that eventually became Robert Yates Racing.
While other teams looked seriously at switching to the Le Mans, NASCAR was intent to slow it down. Their strategy? To promote better competition. Drivers like the 1980 Winston Cup champion Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt, driving the number 2 Pontiac in 1981, switched after driving for Stacy for only 1 race. Earnhardt quit and made his legendary move to drive for Richard Childress in what else but a Pontiac. The first official points race victory after an 18-year absence from competitive NASCAR racing was when rookie driver Morgan Shepherd led 290 500 in Martinsville. Yet the following year would see another lull, no wins in 1982. But the driver who would carry the torch, the golden boy of Pontiac, would be a young driver named Rusty Wallace. Wallace would storm into victory lane 31 times in the years he drove for Pontiac. For this car manufacturer, the highs had never been higher than in 1989 when Rusty Wallace steered his Pontiac to a Winston Cup championship. In 1993, Rusty would again take Pontiac to all-time highs with 11 wins in one season. But his rival, Earnhardt, would take the championship. Just when the lights had never shone brighter for this car company, Rusty left Pontiac to join Ford in 1994.
Yeah, I took it the championship in 1989, driving the Grand Prix. I was real proud of that. I stuck with them when we were at a low, and then back in 92 and 93, we developed some new body pieces and got better. And plus, the stock Grand Prix car changed the nose and the tail a little bit, and it got a little better too. But things evolved, and we had a great car.
Pontiac wouldn't see another victory until 1995, when Kyle Petty's win at the Miller 500 in Dover and Ward Burton's victory at the AC Delco 400 at Rockingham would take them into victory lane one more time. Now with a radical redesign of the 1996 Grand Prix and 5 teams fielding it this season, Pontiac's future remains to be seen, and its history is in the making.
Thank you, Karen, and welcome aboard to our staff on the Inside NASCAR. I'm with Kevin Hamlin, who is the crew chief on the Pontiac #1 that Rick Mast drives in NASCAR Winston Cup Racing. And Kevin, I know you folks are going through a lot here in the changeover from Fords to Pontiacs.
Yeah, we are. We're very, very busy right now trying to get everything done for our winter testing. We've got a car put together we're going to head to the wind tunnel with, and we're really excited about this change.
Now, how much of a change is there from the Fords to the Pontiacs as far as chassis that you might have used in the past?
Chassis-wise, Ned, there's not that big a change. There's the top hoop here on a couple of cars we've had to change, but other than that, the cars that we used last year will be just about exactly the same next year.
So you will use some of the chassis that you actually used in 1995?
Yeah, that's correct. We have 3 chassis that we were really pleased with last season, and we're going to switch those over to Pontiac so we can have a really good baseline to start with and build everything else new.
Now, how does the Pontiac look and what you've seen so far? I know that you're still doing some massaging and, as you say, wind tunnel testing, and, of course, we'll do some road track testing here very shortly.
It looks pretty good right now to us. Rick, he's really pleased with the car, really pleased.
Where do you look for the advantages to be over the Fords that you ran last year?
Well, we're hoping we're going to be able to eventually get a little more downforce than what we had last year with the Ford. We're looking just a total package. If we can get more total downforce front and rear, that's what we're really hoping for.
Now, of course, this is a General Motors car, the Pontiac is, and a lot of people are thinking that it'll compare very favorably and look a lot like the Monte Carlo, does it?
It's got some of the same rounded features that the Monte Carlo does, but it's a design all its own, so it'll have its own characteristics.
Now, is this going to be tougher for this team since you're making a transition from Fords to Pontiac than it would be for the other Pontiac teams that are just simply switching bodies?
Oh, it could be, but I'm going to say that we're probably going to be real open-minded about everything we're doing, and I don't believe it's going to be bad at all. And any information that we're trying to work real close together, all the Pontiac teams are, and any information we gain, we're going to share with them, and hopefully they'll share with us what they learn.
Now, not only will you be changing body styles and from one brand to another, you got the engine situation also be changing from Ford to General Motors.
Yeah, we do. If you remember, a few years back, we did run an Oldsmobile, so Richard Jackson's real familiar with the General Motors engine, and in that aspect of the thing, Brad Thrower and Ron Vaccaro, our engine people up there in Asheville, I don't believe they're going to have any trouble whatsoever with that.
Now, every race team has a favorite race car, one that seems to work better, the driver likes it better than any other. Can you duplicate a car like that?
Well, we hope so. That's what this is kind of about, I guess. If you can set a car here and take every single measurement you can possibly take upon it, then hopefully you can duplicate that car. Then again, there's more than just a chassis. We have to duplicate all the body dimensions. We have to duplicate all the roll cage structure, how it was actually put together from the metal rack to the end product. So we're working really hard towards that right now.
Now, you folks have been through a couple of pretty tough years here. You've had a lot of bad luck along the way, had some awfully good runs, but have had a lot of bad luck. Is the Pontiac going to be the answer to turning things around here?
Well, I don't know if the Pontiac's going to be the answer to that. We're sure hoping the Pontiac's going to be part of that. We're doing an awful strong job back here in the shop right now ourselves, trying to turn that around, not relying on anybody else to do that for us. We're gonna make every effort to finish every single race next year in the lead lap, and hopefully in the front of the pack of a few of them.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and good luck to this team with the new Pontiacs. Now, they're planning to do some private testing this weekend at Talladega. A couple of the other Pontiac teams were at Talladega earlier this week in private tests. Now, we won't hear anything about that because it was a private test. Now, the Chevrolets were at Daytona running scheduled tests this week. And as we leave you for this break, here's a look at the other testing that's scheduled at Daytona this month. From time to time here on Inside NASCAR, we will take you to Wade's World, featuring Steve Wade, managing editor of Winston Cup Scene, and his unique perspective on various subjects in the sport of auto racing. Steve has been around for many years. He's an insider in the sport. Here's his commentary.
Hi, I'm Steve Wade. Have you ever heard of cause and effect? I'm not sure, but I think it has something to do with physics, but I flunked physics. Anyway, it's when something happens, that's the cause, that creates a reaction or a response, that's the effect. In physics, they say that for every action, there's an equal reaction, but I'm not sure. I flunked physics. Well, anyway, we can apply the old cause and effect to NASCAR Winston Cup racing. That's because certain things happened in 1995, the cause, that will create reactions or responses in 1996, the effect. Let's list a few. Cause, Jeff Gordon wins the 1995 Winston Cup Championship. Effect, well, Jeff and his Hendrick Motorsports guys are going to be trying real hard to make it 2 in a row. Because after all, they want to start up that dynasty. But this time, they're going to be marked men. They're not going to sneak up on anybody. And remember, Dale Earnhardt is going to be highly motivated to win that record-setting 8th career championship. Cause, Chevrolet wins the manufacturer's championship. Effect, well, we're feeling that already. Ford is going to lower the roof height of its Thunderbird by 1/4 inch, and it's getting a new nose piece. And we don't even know the effect of the Pontiac Grand Prix yet because we haven't seen it. So expect a lot of rules haggling early into the 1996 season. Cause, more multi-car teams were formed by the end of the 1995 season. Effect, well, a lot of people have speculated that this might cause a sway in the balance of power in NASCAR. After all, you've got a few guys with a big pool of the talent and a big pool of the money. They might want to exude unnecessary influence. Well, don't bet on that. I guarantee you the power will remain in Daytona Beach, Florida, and after all, if some of us can raise our eyebrows about these multi-car teams, don't you think NASCAR can do the same thing? Cause, attendance at races and television audiences were at record highs in 1995. Effect, expect them to go even higher in 1996. That's because several tracks are adding new seats and they've got more tickets to sell. And the number of racing-related television programs continues to grow rapidly. Now, you think growth is rapid right now. Wait until some of those, we're building real fast because we can't wait for you to get here, tracks are ready for NASCAR, like the one at Texas. Well, those are just some examples of the cause and effect that we might see for 1996. Now, some of these predicted effects, if they don't happen, listen, don't blame me. I told you, I flunked physics.
Thanks, Steve. Keep up the good work, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Still to come, we'll have part 2 of the Big Red Boat story right after this.
Let me love you like I love a shoe. You're fine, so kind. I'm gonna tell you that mine,
Coming up next week on Inside NASCAR, Ned sits down with Junior Johnson to talk about life after retirement for one of the most successful car owners in NASCAR Winston Cup history. We'll also tag along with Kenny Wallace as he cuts up with the country's biggest redneck, Jeff Foxworthy. And we'll touch base with Todd Bodine as he takes a shot at Busch Grand National after a couple of tough seasons in Winston Cup. Those stories and a whole lot more are next week on Inside NASCAR.
At the top of the show, we took you on the cruise on the Big Red Boat, featuring some of the NASCAR Winston Cup drivers and other personalities, and they're still on the boat, still having fun, so let's join Randy again.
When we last saw our NASCAR cruisers, they were getting down at the disco. But daybreak was fast approaching.
After parking the Big Red Boat on Wednesday morning in Nassau, it was an early rise for a short excursion over to Salt Key for some fun in the sun and a little relaxation. And for some, it was an early rise after a late evening of singing and dancing. Right, Ray? Stick your head up here.
Nearly all the drivers took a time out as the beautiful beaches of the Bahamas were beckoning. It was time for some to catch up on sleep or just enjoy the serenity of the soft surf while soaking up some of that Salt Key sun. The racers and the race fans were loving it.
It's been great, Randy. You know, the people on the boats has been super. The race fans has been super. Just everybody's been great, and the weather's just absolutely beautiful. And, you know, we're just having a great time.
Drivers, it seems like your schedules are so hectic, really. You really don't get a time to do stuff like this very often, do you?
Well, that's true. You know, it's a good opportunity for us. You know, Wise Auxiliary, T&E, and other people involved, you know, got us on this cruise, and I was happy to be here. You know, race fans have been great on this trip. You know, we did autograph thing yesterday for a long time, and everybody's just real nice and having a good time, and so, you know, we're happy to be here.
Wherever you went, there was always plenty of food and fun for the entire family. Perhaps a game of shuffleboard might be more to your speed, like it was for Ernie Irvin. If you needed action, it was there, especially for those that just couldn't shake that racing bug. One of the coolest excursions was the Dolphin Experience off Fort Lacaya. Along for the fun, Ernie and Kim Irvin with daughter Jordan, as well as Kyle and Patty Petty with son Austin.
Everybody had this concept that the Dolphin was going to be like Free Willy and jump over our head or do the flipper thing, you know what I'm saying? But it was pretty cool. It was like being in the water with a big tractor tire inner tube. It's just like you rub it, you know what I mean? That wasn't too bad. Did you enjoy it?
I liked it. I wanted to really swim with them. But, you know, they're pretty delicate. I'm sure they're highly trained, and so they kind of had precautions, you know, more. But to just get to be that close to them was pretty neat.
It's exciting. You know, I've never really actually done that. You know, Kim was excited about it, and, you know, that was something that we just don't really take the time to do. And, you know, something that Jordan will be able to see these pictures in 2 or 3 years and she'll be saying, man, we got to go again.
All in all, our short stay aboard the Big Red Boat will create some long-lasting memories for both fans and racers alike.
We went on this cruise in June, and we enjoyed it so much that when this came about, you know, we said, man, we would like to have, you know, participate in this. And they said, bring your family. I said, no, that's exactly what I wanted to do. So the kids have just been just going crazy over the things that they can do on this boat and also on the island. So they're enjoying it. They're living it up. They're hardly sleeping. So when we get back home, they'll need a vacation from the vacation.
It's been neat for Susan, Kyle, and myself. You know, don't get the opportunity to do things like this, and especially with the race fans. You know, we've had a few autograph sessions, got to eat with different people, and just had a big time.
It's been great for the fans, but, you know, as far as from the driver's standpoint, it's been great for us, too. You know, we don't get a whole lot of chance to get out with all the race fans and mix and mingle like we have this week on this cruise, and you know, it's just been just unbelievable how much fun it's been. You know, those fans, I mean, they've been so supportive of all of us through the years, and you know, it's just been great to get out and rub elbows with all of them, and you know, go out and karaoke with them at night here and have a lot of good times with them then, and you know, it's just you know, really been just really a great time.
I didn't realize what a good voice you had.
Oh, God.
And to think that all this cruise ship fun benefits a worthy cause, it makes you feel like coming back.
Well, we've just had a great time. There's so many activities. We've seen the shows that they've had.
we've been in the gaming room, and we're even, so we're okay. But I mean, it's just great. I mean, it's overwhelming that the fans have had such a great time and are so positive about this, and we're looking forward to seeing a lot of them back next year, and they've already signed up for it.
It's a win-win situation because you get to come and have a good time, you get to relax, and we really, really, honestly, no bull, we have had a great time, and everybody gets to benefit from it. You know, the Wives Auxiliary, us, everybody. So it's a great, great time, and really, honestly, you know, we want to come back next year. No bull, and if you don't come, you're missing out on a good time. Ask anybody over in Kuroki, and we've got it reserved at tonight.
Boy, that looked like a lot of fun. I didn't get an invite this year, maybe next year. Now, if you'd like to go along in 1996 on the Big Red Boat, here's information on how you can go.
The next TNN NASCAR Family Cruise is scheduled for December 9th through 13th. If you'd like more information or would like to book your spot on the Big Red Boat, call 1-800-277-8605.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. That's just an example of what we can do in a one-hour show. Hope that you'll plan to be with us every weekend right here on TNN for Inside NASCAR, because we certainly have a lot planned for you. As we leave you for today, here's a look at the 1996 NASCAR Winston Cup schedule. See you.
Today's show has been brought to you by Texaco Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. Take it to the star. And by coal-filtered Miller Genuine Draft, making the world a very cool place.